Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and we're back with our monthly sponsored video from Plex, and this month we're going to explore setting up and running a Plex server on the Nvidia Shield TV. And I'm doing this today because they've made some changes to how the Plex server works on the Nvidia Shield, and those changes are going to be very important because the new Shield Pro only has 16 gigs of storage, and the changes that were made allow you to use external storage not only for your media, but your Plex database as well. So we're going to be looking at getting the Plex server up and running, using external storage for the media and the database, and seeing how all of this stuff comes together when you're running the Plex server on the Nvidia Shield. Now, last week, Nvidia announced a new version of the Nvidia Shield, actually two different ones. One is called the Pro, which looks similar to the one I have here on the desk, and the other one is a standard edition that looks like a cylinder. The cylinder does not run the Plex server. So if you are looking to run a Plex server on a Shield, this is not your device. You'll want to get the Pro or get one of the older Shields like I have here. And all of the older ones all run the Plex server. And what's nice about the one I have here is that it is pretty much configured the same way as the new Pro, in that it has just 16 gigabytes of onboard storage. So this external drive is going to be very important. And even though we're not using the brand new Pro yet, mine is still first coming in tomorrow, the procedure with this one is exactly the same as it'll be on the new Pro. So this will be very relevant to all of you new Shield Pro owners out there. So we're going to get into this in just a second, but I do want to let you know, in the interest of full disclosure, that this is a paid sponsorship from Plex. However, they are not reviewing this or approving it before it gets uploaded. All of the opinions you're about to hear are my own. And I'd like to also mention that the WD external drive you'll see here in the video is provided free of charge through the Amazon Vine program. WD is an occasional sponsor here on the channel, but they are not sponsoring this video, and the Shield here we purchased with our own funds. So let's jump into it now and see what the steps are to get the Shield server working. Now, the first step you'll encounter when you run Plex for the first time on your Shield, and what you're going to be presented with, is the option to run the Plex media server on this device. I'm going to say yes right now, and I'll show you in a second how you can enable it after the fact if you didn't choose this initially. So what we're going to do here is get everything set up with the defaults, and then we're going to go in and change some of these things in a little bit. So we're going to just answer yes to the permissions that it needs to do what it does, and now we'll open up the Plex app here to get running and get everything configured. So this will take a minute or two to get up and running, but once we are done with this, we'll jump in and begin configuring things and getting the media that I have stored on this external drive connected up with the Plex server running inside our Shield. All right, so it looks like the server is running now, and I've got a few different servers that I have access to, but we're going to select my Shield Android TV for the purposes of this video. You can very easily switch between servers from within the Plex client. We've done that in other videos, so we're not going to focus too much on that. But just installing the server on here doesn't mean you only have to use this as the sole server. You can add it to your library of servers if you want. This is the standard Plex setup stuff, and now we are in. And there isn't much here to begin with because this server doesn't have anything on it yet. Now, what I want to do first is show you how to enable the Plex server if you didn't enable it initially. So we're going to go over to my name here and go over to Settings. And if you scroll down here, you're going to see an option for Plex Media Server. You see it right here. Now, mine is running right now, but if yours isn't running, it'll say stopped. And you can start it from this part of the settings screen. And remember, if you've got the cylinder Shield, this isn't going to show up at all because this cannot run the Plex server. So it's only going to be on the new Shield Pro or all of the older ones. But as you can see here, we are running. So the next thing we want to do is get my external hard drive here attached and begin pointing our libraries at it. So let's get to that now. All right, so we're going to connect up our external drive now, and to do that, we just pop it into the USB port here on the back of the Shield. Now, what I wanted to do real quick was just jump over to an option that you might have presented to you when you do connect external storage. So we're just going to jump over here to notifications on the Shield's main menu here, and you'll see that it says set up the USB drive. and one of the options it gives you here is to set it up as device storage. We don't need to do that for the Plex server, so I would just leave this as a regular external drive. Don't reformat it. Don't do the internal storage thing. Just let it live as an external drive and ignore what they're asking you to do here, because you don't need to go through this step to do that. There are some good reasons for why you might want to set up an external drive as internal storage, but in this instance, it's just overkill and we don't need to do it, so we're not going to do it. And before we move much further, I want to eject this drive real quick and pop it back in my PC, because I want to put some media in the right place, and I also want to show you what the Nvidia Shield just did when we plugged the drive in for the first time. So we're going to jump back to our settings screen here. I'm going to go down to Device Preferences, and I'm going to select Storage. I'm going to find my WD drive there on the list, and I'm going to click on Eject. Make sure you don't do Erase. Click on Eject. And once it's happy that you can eject the drive, do so. And we're going to pop it out there. And what I'm going to do now is plug it into my computer and show you what was just placed on this drive and where we need to store our media to get all of this stuff to work properly. So I'm just going to jump over to my computer real quick here, and what we're going to do is look at the WD drive that we just popped out of the Shield. And you'll notice here that it created a folder called Nvidia Shield. And the reason why it creates this folder is that Android is very particular about what can be written to external storage. And this Nvidia Shield folder is something that can be written to. And what I want to do is take the two movie files that I've placed on this external drive and put that folder inside the Nvidia Shield folder so it sits in here. And that way, later on, I can add more media to the Shield over my network without having to pop the drive out every time. So this will be a thing you can do now to prevent some headaches later. So now that we have our movies folder inside the Nvidia Shield folder, I'm going to eject the WD drive here from the computer, plug it back into the Shield, and we'll continue on with our project here. All right, so I've got the external drive now reattached to the Shield. And you'll notice when I go to Plex and select my movies library, it's telling me that the library is empty, and it wants me to visit this website on my computer to get things set up. So I went to that website on my computer here and logged in with my Plex account. And sure enough, I'm getting a very similar message here as well on my movies library, because it is in fact empty, and it's asking me to manage the library. So that's exactly what we're going to do right now. If your screen doesn't look like this, I will show you where to go to look for this stuff in a different way. But more than likely, this is what you're going to see when you click on the movie library from your computer if your Shield is your only server. So I'm going to click on Manage Libraries here. I'm going to go over to Movies and click on Edit. And what's going to happen here is it's going to bring up a screen to let me configure the library. Now, I could rename the library if I want, but Movies is good enough for now. You can set the media type that this library is, but it is going to be a movie library, so I'm not going to touch that. But this is the important thing. We're going to now point this at the right directory so that we can get our movies added to the mix. So right now it's pointed at the internal storage. I can add a folder so I can have it looking in multiple folders, or in this case, I'm going to remove the internal storage folder that it was using and replace it with something else. I'm going to click on Browse for Media folder. This will take a second to index, and then once it comes up, you are likely going to see some gibberish here with a folder next to it. And what you want to do is look for the file structure that you have on your external drives. Remember, we had a stuff folder, we had that Nvidia Shield folder, and then the Android folder that was on that disk. So I know I'm definitely looking at my external drive here. I'm going to click on that Nvidia Shield folder where we moved the movies folder to, and sure enough, in that folder is our movies folder. I'm going to click on that. We've got the two movie files in there, and I'm going to click on Add, and then I'm going to click on Save. And what this is going to do is point the server now at that external drive, and you can see it's processing the two movie files that we have stored there. And what Plex is doing right now is it's indexing these against its database, and what we should see happen here in a second are the two movie posters showing up, and there they are. for the two movies that we have stored on here. And if I go in and click on Star Wars Episode 6, A New Hope, or Return of the Jedi, excuse me, you can see we've got all of that metadata. Likewise, if we go back to my shield here and just click on, I'll click off of it and go over to movies. So there they are. You can see now we've got the same thing showing up here in all of our metadata. So now we are successfully pointing media at the external drive, the database is updated, and everything is good to go. Now, if for some reason you didn't see that empty library message, all of your libraries here can be edited at any time by clicking on this little action button here, going to Manage Library, and then over to Edit. And that will allow you to go back to that dialog you saw earlier to maybe add more folders or change the folder or change some of the other information about the library. Likewise, if you have multiple servers on your Plex account, you will need to go and find your Shield Android server by going to the bottom of your interface here and going to More. And as you can see, I've got a bunch of different servers here, so the movies folder I was just working on will be located under the Shield Android server here, and I can get at that same dialog here by navigating down that way. Now you'll notice here that we've got a lot of artwork. We've got this, we've got the thumbnail for the movie. It will also likely be playing some background music as you're browsing things around, and all of that stuff is being stored currently on the internal storage of our Shield. And if you have that new Shield TV Pro with only 16 gigs of storage, we're going to want to move that database and all that metadata somewhere else, namely onto our external drive. So let me show you how to do that right now so you can free up your internal space and still have a pretty robust Plex server. So to move the database, we're going to go back to the Shield. This is not done on the web server. We're going to go to my name here and go over to Settings again. We're going to browse down to where that Plex Media Server option is. And you'll see here there's an option for storage location. We're going to click on that. And we're going to now read what it says. And it says here that we can free up space on internal storage, which is very important because we're very limited there, and give Plex Media Server room to grow by using external storage. So we're going to say, let's do it. And this doesn't do it, though. You get another dialog here, and you'll probably see a couple of different options depending on how many drives are attached. Now, what I'm going to do is point it at my WD drive here, but you could use an SD card or a secondary hard drive if you want. It doesn't have to be on the same drive that stores your media. So you do have some flexibility and some options here. But note, you can't remove the drive while the Plex server is running because it depends on that data being where you tell it it's going to be, and you'll likely corrupt your database if you pull the drive out without shutting the server down. So perhaps an SD card, if your Shield supports it, might be the best way to go. But again, in this case, I'm going to leave this drive attached, and I'm going to click on WD drive, and I'm going to click on Continue. Sometimes this will give you an error message. Just do it again, and likely it'll start working. It'll also take a long time if you have a big library. And I also believe you can move these things again after you do this. So if you decide later you don't want it to be on this drive, you can attach something else and move the database there. So it's pretty flexible and pretty quick and easy to get everything moved over. I did find that it's asking me to reset the home screen customization. I have tried both yes and no, and I haven't seen any ill effects to either. So I think you could probably get away with just saying no here and keeping your customization the way it is. It's going to knock you back out to the home screen here, but when you log back in, everything will come back up, and now the database is being stored on here and not on our internal storage. So now you might be asking yourself, how do we get files over to this easily? Because we have to keep that drive attached all the time. Well, one way is you could shut the server down, eject the disk, copy your media, and then plug it back in. But an easier way is to actually connect to it over the network. And I'm going to show you how to do that on my Windows machine now because I'm assuming that's what most of you are running, but I'll also show you how to connect with a Mac after we get through this demo. So let's get that Windows machine booted up and we'll see how we can move some media over to the Shield through the network. Now, built into your Shield is a little file server, and if you go out to your main menu and go up to the Settings gear icon, if you go over to Device Preferences and then over to Storage, what you're going to see is an option to transfer files over your local network. And if you click on that, you can turn this on and it will give you a username, an IP address, and a password that you can use to log into your Shield from a Windows or Mac or Linux device. But on Windows, there's going to be an extra step. So let me show you what you're supposed to type in here to get connected. The fastest way is just to type in that IP address with 2 backslashes in front of it. But when you do that, by default, Windows is going to spit an error back at you because it's using an older version of the Samba file protocol. So in order to fix this, we have to go into the Windows settings on Windows 10 to enable version 1.0 of Samba. So let me show you how to do that real quick, and then we'll see if we can get connected and move a file over. So on the Windows machine, you're going to go back down to your little search bar there and type in Turn Windows Features On or Off. It's a control panel option. You're going to click on that, and you're going to have to wait a second or two for everything to populate. And what you want to do is scroll down until you see SMB 1.0 file sharing support, and you want to check the box on and click OK. After that, you'll be prompted to reboot your computer. We're going to do that now. When it comes back up, hopefully we can get connected to the external drive on the Shield through the network. All right, so my Windows machine has rebooted, and hopefully we can connect now. So what we're going to do is type in those 2 backslashes again and type in the IP address of the Nvidia Shield. And again, we got that information from the settings screen of the Shield. And I'm going to hit enter here. And then we're going to be brought up with a screen here for network credentials. And again, the credentials will be given to you on screen. So I'm going to type in my username and the password that it has there for me. And then hopefully now we should be able to get in and do this. And now you can see why I really prefer running my Plex server on a PC or on a network attached storage device, because this is a lot of hoops to jump through just to move some simple files back and forth. Hopefully future editions of Android running on the Shield will eliminate the need to have to do all this extra stuff in Windows, but right now this is what you have to do. But the good news is I can now see my Shield, and we're going to go over to the WD drive. And the reason why we used that Nvidia Shield folder earlier is because this is the only folder you can write to. You can read the other folders and files on the disk, but you can't write to anything except for what's inside of this Shield folder. And of course, we still have our movies in there. And what I've got here is a movie that I wanted to add to my library. So I'm going to take that and just drag it over here. And we're going to let that copy over the network. And once it is in the drive after copying, we will jump back and see if it shows up in our library. So let's let this copy and we'll come right back. All right, the file is copied, but we're not yet seeing it on screen because the library hasn't updated itself. I think that's a scheduled thing that happens every so often on the Shield. You can set it to scan that directory more frequently, or you can just manually trigger it here by going over to the action periods there on the left-hand side and going to scan library files. And what's going to happen here is it's going to look in that directory, and hopefully it will see the new movie file that we just added to the mix. It might take it a minute or two for it to jump up here, but once it is done, we should see it on screen. All right, so after it did its scan, Frozen Fever here showed up. I've got all the metadata and all the other good stuff there, so that is good to go. Now, the next thing I wanted to do is just show you on the Mac how to connect to the Shield over the network, because of course the Mac is a little different than Windows. At the moment, it doesn't appear to have the same security issues that it had on the Windows side, but who knows with future Mac OS X updates if that will still be the case. But at least on this one, it's so far so good. You're not going to see it on your list of devices on your network. So what I'm going to do is go to Go in the Finder, go to Connect to Server, and what we're going to do here is just type in SMB colon and then 2 forward slashes and the address here and click Connect. And that, of course, will then prompt you for the same credentials that we typed in on Windows. And after that, you can move files around just like you did on the Windows side. So a little bit of cumbersome file transfers here going on, but you can do it without having to disconnect the drive. And once you get the hang of this, I think it'll be pretty easy to get done in the future. All right, after all of that, we are finally up and running here. So we've got media and databases stored on the external drive. The Nvidia Shield here is acting as the server. My phone is playing back this file successfully, and we're also taking advantage of the fact that the Nvidia Shield supports Plex hardware transcoding. I believe it's the only ARM-based device that does. And as you can see here, we're going from 1080p to 720p. That HW means the hardware transcoder is working. And we're taking this big Blu-ray MKV file and shrinking it down to 4 megabits per second to the phone, and all is good. One thing you don't get, though, on the Shield is a lot of detailed system information. So you can see we've got a bandwidth graph here, but we're not seeing all of the detail that we get with my MyCloud device, for example, which gives me bandwidth and CPU and RAM utilization. All we get on the Shield, unfortunately, is bandwidth, and I would love to see the CPU utilization just so I could figure out exactly how many streams it can support at a time. So we'll have to poke around with this and see what the limits are. Generally, I don't recommend using the Shield as a server, mostly because you're probably going to be doing other things with it. You might be watching media locally, you might be playing a game. All those things will hit at that CPU, will impact the memory, and will reduce the performance, especially for hardware transcoding and other things that you might want to have users doing on your server. So I think ideally a PC or a network attached storage device is still better, but if you really want to consolidate everything and run the server off the Shield, you can certainly do that. A couple extra hoops to run through to get everything set up and operating, but once those hoops are jumped through, everything here seems to work just fine, and the movie performance with the hardware transcoder is great. So let me know what you thought about this down in the comments below, and if I missed anything, also let me know. We can do a follow-up, but so far so good here with the Shield, and it's great that you can now run everything off the external drive, which of course will free up the very limited storage you have on the new Shield Pro. Until next time, this is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching.
This channel is brought to you by the Lon.TV supporters, including gold-level supporters, the Four Guys with Quarters podcast, Chris Allegretta, Tom Albrecht, Brian Parker, and Kalyan Kumar. If you want to help the channel, you can by contributing as little as $1 a month. Head over to Lon.TV/support to learn more. And don't forget to subscribe. Visit Lon.TV/s.